We're live.
Alrighty, well, happy Thursday. My name is Helena Miller. I'm a clinical nutritionist here at Rassel-Daigneault Holistic Health Center as well as Gilead Healing Center. Tonight we're going to talk about healthy hearts. It is the month of February. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, so we decided to do a theme for this month about hearts. So, welcome. Thank you for coming. My name, like I said, is Helena Miller. I've been in this practice as a clinical nutritionist for probably 8 years now, going on 9 years. I've been a patient in this office over 10 years. I have a background in respiratory therapy, so I worked 20 years in a hospital as a respiratory therapist, and I dealt with heart cases literally all the time. When you think of a respiratory therapist, most people think of the lungs, which is absolutely right. However, respiratory therapists work very closely with heart patients as well, because heart patients oftentimes have a hard time breathing. At the end of my career in the hospital, I was mostly working in the ICU. That was my comfort zone. I liked to know what was coming and going. And it happened to be a surgical ICU that had a lot of open heart patients. And so I understand very well what it's like for patients to go through open heart surgery, at least from a practitioner or clinician's perspective. I worked in the cath lab at times if need be, certainly did my fair amount of CPR. And so that gives me a nice understanding, I think, of what people deal with in regards to their heart health. So tonight, we're going to take the next hour. I'm going to try and condense it. I try to make things very simple to understand, and we're going to talk about the truth about that word you all know but don't understand, okay? And this is based on my clinical experience. Why are we so susceptible to heart disease in this country? Because we truly are more susceptible than any other country or nation in the world. And what does the American Heart Association say we should do, and is it working? We're going to discuss that. Is it really working? And I'm going to give you some common sense solutions that you can start using today to greatly reduce your chance of heart disease. Does that sound like a good use of our time tonight? Okay, good. Let's start with this. What really is healthy? There was a study in 2017 by the International Food Information Council that found that most people don't know what healthy really means, and I can agree with that. Most people feel like, well, I don't take a lot of medication, so I'm healthy, or I take my medication, so therefore I am healthy, right? Or I don't really go to the doctor, so I'm healthy. I don't get sick often, so I'm healthy, right? Oh, I hear that all the time. Oh, I never get sick. I never get sick. So-and-so never gets sick. He's healthy, right? Is that truly the meaning of health? It appears like not many people understand. In our practice, we define health in a term of, this is what our belief system is in order to be healthy, you have to eat well, you have to move well, and you have to think well, okay? Have you ever been around negative Nancy's? Anybody? You are one? Did you know that's a learned thing? It's a learned behavior, probably from someone in growing up, from your parents. Maybe one of your parents were a negative Nancy, or whatever. And it can be unlearned, I'm just telling you. Okay? It's just a matter of intention and training. But negative Nancy's, they kind of sometimes have this ability to bring us down, right? Right? It's hard when you're in that mode of negative Nancy mode to get out of it, isn't it? Right? Okay, so now I'm inspiring you to just be more focused on that, right? Because that's low tone. It's low tone. On the other side of that, flip side of that coin, if you're around somebody who's always upbeat and positive and bubbly, isn't it fun to be around that? Well, some people can go a little overboard. Is that what you're meaning? Like sometimes it's like a little bit much. I get it. But overall, genuinely, we we can be attracted to people who are upbeat and have a nice, positive outlook on life, okay? So I thought that was interesting. And I don't think, I mean, that was, what, 8 years ago. I don't think it's changed really, to be honest with you. Are you aware that the company Nestle, that makes trillions of dollars selling you 100 different kinds of candy and hot chocolate and all the things, they feel that they can call themselves the world's leading nutrition, health, and wellness company. Say what? Say what? Okay. I found that very interesting because Nestle, when you look at their products, that to me doesn't really scream health. But to them, this is what they're doing. They're leading the way. So this is what we're up against, okay? These big corporations, food corporations, and this is part of how we got to where we are today. Here's a corporate funding of food and nutrition research. This is out of JAMA 2016. Although most journals now require authors to disclose who pays for their work, disclosure even done diligently is not sufficient to alert readers to the extent to which industry funding influences research results and professional opinion. So what this really means is the fox is guarding the hen house. So big food, big ag, even the FDA, the pharmaceutical companies, there's like this revolving door where sometimes they're doing their own research on their own products and coming up with positive results, or sometimes their friends are doing the research. You see what I'm saying? And this is exactly why in our country, we allow way more chemicals in our food supply than other countries. And here's a prime example. Back in October, I was one of, I get the estimate I heard was over 1,000 people in Battle Creek, and we petitioned Kellogg's cereal company. We were asking, and there were over 400,000 petitions. There's probably way more now because that's, like I said, it was back in October. And we petitioned them to take the food dyes and BHT out of their cereals, like they do for those people in Europe and Canada, right? They have different formulas for them. We were just asking them not to recreate the wheel, right? Reinvent the wheel. We're asking them to do for us in American children what they do for European countries and Canada. And unfortunately, they have neglected to do that. So it was very disappointing. But the work is still going. It's ongoing, right? I believe that eventually they will have to cave. Eventually enough people will hear that and they will stop buying the products. So money talks, right? So that's just something to think about. The Global Energy Balance Network, I've never heard of this, but this is a nonprofit science-based organization that's aimed at fighting obesity. We have an obesity epidemic in this country, and it states that Americans should focus more on exercise than food to be healthy. Really? And again, I'm just saying, this is why we're in the situation we are, because in our country, we don't focus on food quality like they do in other countries. And guess who quietly funded it?
Probably themselves.
I put a little hint down here, $5.5 million. Any guesses? Coca-Cola, you're right. Coca-Cola funded that study. Isn't that crazy? And this is something we probably paid for with our tax dollars, right? Because it's global. A lot of our tax money goes to pay for global studies on things. So, very interesting, huh? Coca-Cola. So what does the American Heart Association say? I don't want to keep saying health. Heart Association says that we need to eat a wide variety of fruits and veggies. This is off of their website under the nutrition, the basic nutrition. I can agree with that. Variety of fruits and veggies. A lot of them do, however, need to be organic. And the reason that is because some of them are sprayed heavily with pesticide. Okay, some of them. And so in our practice, we teach our patients which ones they need to buy organically and which ones they can buy conventionally, what we call conventional produce. Whole grains, they want you to buy, your oatmeals, for instance, right? We've been told that that's heart healthy. Variety of proteins, mostly plants, though. That's what they say. They want you to eat mostly plant protein. And for sure, low-fat animal protein, okay? So no ribeye for you is what they're saying, okay? They don't want you to have dietary fat, animal fat particularly. And using liquid, non-tropical vegetable oils such as canola oil and corn oil. Those are their suggestions. Is this health guidance really working for us? Do we have less heart disease than ever before in this country? No. I guarantee you the cath labs at both McLaren and Sparrow are busy every single day. I guarantee you they're doing open heart surgeries every single day. We're using more statins, more blood pressure medications, more anti-arrhythmia, or, medications to control our rate and rhythm of our heart than ever before. They also suggest that you should minimize intake of processed foods and added sugars. I can totally get down with that. I can agree with that. Absolutely. Because that is part of our problem. That is part of the root cause of the problem. They want foods prepared with little or no salt. That I don't necessarily agree with. Okay? Especially when we're talking about salt, right? There are different types of salt. Morton salt is void of any nutrient value, any mineral value rather, okay? It might have iodine because they add it back in, correct? But other salts, like Celtic sea salt, why not? It's got the minerals, it's not gonna raise your blood pressure. We don't believe that that's true. So, me personally, and in our clinic, we like salt, okay? And limited or preferably no alcohol. I can agree with that. So I'm in agreement with some of the things that the American Heart Association say, and other things I would question. And I think everyone should, right? I think everyone should question whatever agency is giving you health advice particularly. So this is a fact, obesity is a direct contributor to cardiovascular risk factors, such as type 2 diabetes, we all know that, abnormal cholesterol, we know that, high blood pressure and sleep disorders, we know that. Additionally, obesity leads to development of cardiovascular disease and death from cardiovascular disease independently of other cardiovascular risk factors. So this is a huge problem in this country, which is why we're number one of all the medications to help try to correct all of these things. And now what are we running after obesity with? What medication are we? The GLP-1, I guess. I'm not as familiar with those. I just know that they come with their host of pretty unfavorable side effects, including a black box warning for thyroid cancer. But a lot of people are now handling their diabetes and or obesity with these medications. Did you know around 1,900 people die from heart-related issues every single day in this country? 1,900, that's huge to me. That is a huge number. That's a huge fail. What are we doing wrong? We're supposed to be the leading superpower in healthcare in the entire world, are we not? Did I miss something? Right? So what are we doing wrong? This is a point where we as individuals, we need to stop and really think about it. If we want to have longevity and have good quality in our life and not have to deal with all those things that were on that previous slide, what are we going to do different than every other person, right? If every one of us was following the American Heart Association's recommendations today, and believe me, a lot of people are, they just don't know what they don't know. Why are we suffering? Why are we having so much problems with our cardiovascular system? These are the questions that society needs to start asking. So how do we begin? We have to understand what is fueling our hearts and what is poisoning our hearts, okay? The fuel for your heart is things such as wild-caught salmon, high in omega-3 fatty acids, which the heart loves, extra virgin olive oil, okay? Preferably organic, preferably in a green glass bottle, right? Good quality. Good quality olive oil is not gonna be cheap, by the way, you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay for it, but that's okay. If you want quality, and you should, that's what you have to do. Walnuts and blueberries, grass-fed or finished ground beef, okay? Unflavored mineral water and pasture-raised eggs. On the contrary, what most Americans eat instead of wild salmon is perhaps breaded fish sticks or deep fried pieces of fish, right? Instead of extra virgin olive oil, most Americans are using the canola oil because why? Because they heard it was heart healthy, right? It's got the heart on the front of the packaging, doesn't it? Yeah, just like your oatmeal does. Instead of walnuts, people are eating chocolate covered peanuts, and instead of blueberries, maybe they're doing a fruit on the bottom, blueberry yogurt, which is full of sugar, and they just don't realize it because they've never looked at the label. Instead of doing grass-fed finished beef, they're having fast food burgers, right? I've had patients say to me, well, I go to Culver's because it's fresh, right? Or I go to Wendy's because they're never frozen, right? These are the marketing tools that they give, or they put on us to make us think it's a better quality product, but is it? Not really sure. Unflavored mineral water versus soda, and pasture-raised eggs versus an Egg McMuffin. And then, of course, we've got the apple pie. Don't forget the French fries and the coffee. Okay? So this is kind of how we have to start thinking of things. And I try to teach my patients to start thinking of things such as Coca-Cola as poison. Because the body doesn't recognize Coca-Cola as a delicious carbonated beverage. It really doesn't. The body immediately will think it's been poisoned. And it's going to do its best to get rid of it, right? And if you're doing this day in and day out, multiple times a day, how toxic are you really going to be? Is your liver going to be able to keep up with that? Not likely. And then what are you going to do? You're going to start storing fat because your body has toxins that it can't do anything with. So it's going to store those toxins in your fat. And before you know it, you become obese, right? There are very few people who can drink Coca-Cola or eat in such a way that can stay thin. And even if they stay thin, it's deceptive, right? Because we can have what's called visceral fat in our body and still look thin. And that's the fat around our organs. And it's the dangerous fat associated with all the cardiovascular things we don't want to deal with, okay? So it's important to understand. Did you know the heart communicates? This was interesting to me. Your heart communicates through EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, right? Right?
Yeah.
Think about how your heart beats. Your nervous system says beat, right? It pulses. It says to beat. That's EMF. It's electromagnetic frequencies. It gets it to beat. Your heart communicates through thermography or heat coming from the heart. And it also is it's necessary for your heart to communicate with the collagen matrix, through the collagen matrix. Now, most people don't realize that we as Americans, because of our vast exposure to glyphosate, we are extremely deficient in collagen. And as we get older, we make less and less of it. And our society does not eat enough protein, especially animal protein. So how are we going to get collagen, dietary collagen, if we don't eat it, right? We can drink bone broth for sure, collagen bone broth. We can take powders. But if we're fighting against the glyphosate that's also in our food and water, then how are we going to keep up with this collagen matrix that we need, our heart needs, and is necessary for the communication? We're not. We're going to probably fail a little bit because we're far too deficient. That make sense? Okay, let's talk about some case studies. So this is a patient of ours. Currently, she's around 65. She presented with some palpitations out of the blue. My testing found that her heart, her thyroid, and her lymphatic system were needing some help. Okay, so I did the usual. I found the solution, and I uncovered that the thyroid was hyperactive. So when your thyroid is hyperactive, that can cause palpitations, or also what's known in the medical world as PVCs, premature ventricular contractions. And what I found her to need was some detox support and some immune support and organ support specifically for the thyroid. So her palpitations really weren't anything to do with her heart necessarily. They had everything to do with her thyroid. Isn't that interesting? Most people don't know that. They go through every cardiac study there is known to man, the EKGs and all the things, right? And, you know, then they have perhaps the ablation. Maybe they go into AFib. This can cause AFib as well. And they go in to get ablations because that's the solution. Nothing else has worked for them, right? This is a big deal. I find this very frequently. I've had many patients over the years that have had thyroid dysfunction affecting their heart rate and rhythm, okay? High blood pressure and arrhythmias. So these are two topics that a lot of people know. They may not know the word arrhythmia, but that's just an irregular heartbeat, and a lot of people have that. And so if you or someone you know have high blood pressure or arrhythmias, just know there's always a root cause to that. And oftentimes we find our patients are just not getting to the root cause. In fact, I had a patient, recent patient who's in their 80s. She was on 5 blood pressure lowering medications and not getting anywhere, but she did have damage to her kidney. And so she starts on a good nutrition program specifically for her. Her main goal is and always will be to be off of her medications. And, you know, I'm like, well, let's just try. As of 6 weeks, she's off 1 medication and she's lowered the doses of the others. Now, why is that? Because our main goal is to get the body to be in better working order. How do we do that? We find the exact right solution that allows the body to A, clean itself up, right? A lot of people have bodies that can't easily or effectively clean themselves up because they're just far too deficient and far too toxic. And so our goal is to get people to have the exact right nutritional support to detox properly and repair properly. And when that happens, then the body gets itself in better working order, and then you can start needing less medications. Yeah? That makes sense? Okay. Other wins, she's leg swelling has gone down in her legs and feet. Her thoughts are more clear, and her energy is overall better. So if you're 80 and you're getting these kinds of wins, isn't that going to be exciting? That's going to be exciting. Her family was actually very concerned about her cognition when she first came in. And so somebody always comes with her. So won't it be nice if there comes a day when she can come on her own and not have to have somebody there to remember all of the things that, you know, she would forget necessarily. So I'm excited about that case. Okay, here's the word. When you think of the word cholesterol, remember at the beginning, I'm like, that word, I'm going to talk to you about that word that most of you know, but you don't always understand. When you think of the word cholesterol, does it give you a good feeling or a bad feeling? Right? We've been trained to think about cholesterol negatively, haven't we? It's been my entire life anyway, decades. When I was younger, I'm of the generation that butter was bad. So my family life went from butter to I can't believe it's not butter, like overnight. Yep, my mom and dad, they bought it. Well, it was mostly my mom, I'm sure. My dad didn't really have anything to do with it. My mom, like, oh my goodness, we got to get this butter out of the house. It's terrible for us, right? So, did you know billions of dollars have been spent to ensure you always have that bad feeling about cholesterol? Yeah. And it's the marketing, it's the advertising, it's the pamphlets in the doctor's office, it's all of it, right? That's spending that we have, government spending that we have implemented those beliefs. Right or wrong, that's what we've done. All mammals, did you know this? All mammals, along with humans, make cholesterol. Cows, even gorillas, I'm told, right? Because they're mammals. They make cholesterol. So if it's so bad, why do we make it? I've asked people that, and they don't know what to tell me. They don't know what to tell me. If we're making cholesterol, it has a purpose in the body. Okay? Okay, so cholesterol is made up of three key elements, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. How could that be bad, right? It is a soft, white, waxy molecule that's essential for every cell in the body. Our cell membranes are made of cholesterol. Every cell made of cholesterol. Human body produces around 1,000 milligrams per day, which is enough to fill a small capsule. Okay? So if every cell in the body needs cholesterol, what does that make cholesterol in your mind? Is it good or is it bad? Will you be able to make new cells if you don't have enough cholesterol? If every cell in the body has a cholesterol shell, if you will, the outer cell membrane has to be made with cholesterol. Are we going to fail at the repair system that the body has? I feel like we are, okay? Okay, we've all heard of LDL and HDL, right? These are lipoproteins. So this is what their true purpose in the body is, okay? The HDL, which is known as our good cholesterol, it transports fats to where they need to go. Again, it's our belief that cholesterol is a nutrient. If it's a nutrient, that makes sense, right? If our cells need it, it must be a nutrient, just like vitamin A, vitamin D, all the things. And it's like a super vacuum, and it sucks up extra cholesterol and plaquing in the arteries, and it takes it to the liver to get rid of it, right? The liver, the bile in the liver is supposed to break it down and get rid of it, okay? And those are the optimum numbers for men, greater than 40, women greater than 50. LDL, which has been touted as the bad cholesterol, is like a taxi cab. It carries the protein that transports life-saving cholesterol to every cell in the body. So it's like the taxi cab. It's going to take the cholesterol to every cell that needs it. Every cell that's replacing itself and repairing a new cell, there we go. But size matters. We want the light, fluffy light, fluffy type of LDL. That's the good stuff that we really want a lot of. And then the small, dense are the ones we don't want a lot of, okay? So how do we do that? There are actually 7 different types, but junk food and standard American diet causes the liver to produce more. I'm sorry, that's cut off down there. It causes the liver to produce more of these small, dense, bad ones, okay? And then yes, that can cause some plaquing in the arteries. It can cause cholesterol to go to the arteries because guess what? A junky standard American diet causes your vessels to be leaky. It destroys your glycocalyx, it's on the inside of your vessel, and then you have a leaky vessel. So what does your body do? Oh my gosh, the fire alarms are going on, right? The body's like, holy cow, I have this leaky vessel. I need to make some cholesterol. And I'm going to go and I'm going to put it up there and we're going to patch it up, okay? So if you want less of the small, dense, bad ones, you do have to change your diet. You absolutely have to. But we don't focus on that necessarily to the fullest degree in this country. And so a lot of people are led astray and they just don't know what they don't know. So that's just a basic rundown of those two things. Because I feel like most of our patients that come in, they're already on a statin drug. They already have this idea that they can't have butter. Are you sure I should eat some red meat? I get that a lot. Are you sure I should eat some red meat? Yeah, eat some red meat. But my doctor said, right? I know what the doctor says. Think about this rationally though. Back in the day, and I'm talking pre-industrial revolution, what did our ancestors eat? They ate mostly meat, eggs, and butter. They did have veggies, maybe some fruit that they could grow locally in the summer, right? That's what they ate. And if it was so bad for them to eat meat, eggs, and butter back then, how did we get here, right? They had to have had some sort of longevity, some sort of survival mechanism, right? But over time, industrial revolution comes, and then we have this big agriculture, and then now we can get everything all the time from all over the world, right? Is that necessarily bad? No, but is it the best way for us to feed ourselves traditionally or primally, okay? And we all know triglycerides as well. It's on your panel. By the way, there is an extra test, and I'm not sure how often medical doctors do that, to find out what different types, what your level of different types of LDL are. Perhaps they do that a lot, but perhaps they don't. Maybe they just give you an LDL number and they just assume that you've got all these bad ones, but you have, because you're eating really clean and you're detoxing well and all the things, you have a lot of the light fluffy ones that are not a problem at all. Does that make sense? All right. Triglycerides are a form of molecular fat found in food and produced in the liver. Diets high in sugar and refined carbs lead to excess production of this, which can lead to an increased risk of cardiovascular problems. Okay? We in our practice, we call the triglycerides the junkometer. So if it's really high, we know that our patients have been eating too much junk, right? And so we have to do a lot of work on diet. But in general, triglycerides, once they reach the cells, they're used for energy. That's just it. They're just energy, right? Which is not a bad thing. But in excess also, it can lead to metabolic syndrome and what we know as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Okay? Ideally, under 100 milligrams per deciliter is optimum. And the things that you can eat extra, besides cleaning up your diet, are omega-3 fatty acids in the form of supplements, and niacin, which is a B vitamin, can help to lower that. Okay? But ultimately, going after the root cause should always be the first step. So diet, right? Diet, exercise, eating well, moving well, thinking well. Okay? I have my mother years ago had a leaky valve and she had to have valve surgery. They had to repair it, and so I remember her being in surgery, and this was like, I don't know how many years ago. I don't remember. It was quite a while ago though. I remember her being in surgery. She was the only one on the board, in the waiting room on the board, and they called a stroke call. I don't remember what they call it in the hospital these days, but I knew back then what it was, and she was the only one on the board in the surgery suite that we were watching, right, that they called it to. And I panicked. I remember, oh my gosh, my mom is having a stroke, right? My mother smoked her entire life. Well, up until 10 years before she died, she smoked. My mother never prioritized her health, not once. She thought about it, but she just didn't know what she didn't know. Nobody taught her, and she was just following medical advice and just going right along with life. And she did have a mini stroke that day. And they had a terrible time accessing her vasculature, meaning her vessels, to get into do the heart valve replacement because of her diet and lifestyle. And I know a lot of people like to talk about genetics. The doctor's like, well, what's your family history? I get it. But our genes are like a library of books, and our diet and lifestyle determine which book we're going to pull off the shelf, right? So we all have, for instance, cancer genes. We all have, maybe cardiovascular gene, but it's our diet and lifestyle that is going to be the thing that makes us pull it off the shelf, okay? And so my mother she didn't know what she didn't know, and her diet and lifestyle pulled that gene of cardiovascular disease off the shelf. Okay. So this is based on Dr. Jack Wolfson. I've had the pleasure of learning from him. And he has this great book called The Paleocardiologist. And it really teaches you how to holistically or more naturally take care of your cardiovascular health. So if you're interested and you like to read, that is a good book. I would suggest it. But he talks about the 100-year heart. And this is his suggestion on how to feed yourself, okay? Only eating organic food free from chemicals, antibiotics, GMOs, and hormones. Okay? We still to this day don't know the depth of what eating and consuming genetically modified organisms is really doing to us. Right? We just don't know. And so it's best, if you don't know, to kind of try to avoid stuff, right? We have it on the packaging now, non-GMO this, non-GMO that. So keep an eye out for that. Eating more seafood, mix organ meats into your diet whenever possible. This is something I get a lot of resistance on, and I totally get it because I'm not a fan either of organ meats. I have a before, I've taken liver and I've ground it up. Hi, welcome. I've ground it up and mixed it with ground beef, and then I eat it, right? Because it's more palatable for me that way. So I always encourage my patients, if you like organ meats, please eat a lot of those. But if you don't, then try to sneak it in. Now, there are some frozen beef products in the city that are called ancestral meats, and they do a blend of organ meats with regular ground beef. You can buy it already mixed together. So if you're interested, that's what I do sometimes when I don't have all of the time in the world. But my farmer will often give me liver because nobody wants to buy it, I think. So he just gives it to me. All right, so eating organ meats whenever possible. Utilize the power of organic spices, especially I would suggest cayenne. I don't think we use enough cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is known to help with the circulatory system. So if you can use that and you're not scary sherry about the hotness, then that's a good opportunity to help out. Drinking plenty of quality filtered water. You know, our city water supply is, you know, it's got at least 50 chemicals that you can't smell or taste in it, right? So I would suggest to not drink from your city water supply. If you have a well, that's fine, but the city is bad enough that we shower in it, right? Because you're in a hot shower, you can absorb a lot more chemicals in a 10-minute hot shower than you probably do consuming it. But this is really important. Water quality is super important. For me at home, I have a Berkey water filter. I change the filters more often than the company suggests, just because I know that over time, the effectiveness goes down, and I also drink distilled water. As you know, I have a bottle of distilled water here, the Smart Water you can buy. I try not to drink out of plastic if I don't have to, but some days it just doesn't work out for me like that, so I have to have some water. But distilled water, I also have a tabletop distiller, so I will distill some water at home, and then I put that in the refrigerator, and then that's what we try to use at home. If you're consuming dairy, try to make sure it's raw dairy. You can't get raw milk unless you buy a cow share, which I think is ridiculous. We get more supposed outbreaks of infection from produce than we ever did from raw milk back in the day when we used to, you know, farmers used to bring it to the door, right? But for some reason they want us to be scared of raw milk, right? The Amish drink raw milk. We still have Amish, right? Okay, that's what I thought I remembered. So if you have to buy, like cheese, for instance, you could buy raw milk cheese. And if you can afford a cow, if you like and must have dairy or cow's milk, then try to get a cow share. And cut out, of course, processed sugar, and I would add to that refined carbohydrates like your bread, rice, pastas. The grains are all full of glyphosate, by the way. And we know now today that our heart needs the collagen matrix to be strong in order to communicate. And so glyphosate is a big, big deal. Okay? Any questions so far?
What kind of tabletop water filter do you have?
I just bought on Amazon. I don't think it's anything special. I just looked for a water distiller on Amazon. And I think most of them you have to buy the carbon pouches or the filters. You have to buy that separately.
And you had a Berkey one?
I have a Berkey. It's hard to get the actual Berkey filters right now. Something with the government, the FDA or something. So I did buy the aftermarket ones or whatever you want to call it, and I just I have the ability to test my water and make sure that they're working effectively, and that's what I do. So that seems to be working for me, trying to hit it from both angles, having the distilled and then the Berkey filtered water, but that's important. But yeah, that's the 100-year part of it anyway. It's a whole protocol that he has developed. So he has a great website, Dr. Jack Wolfson, if you want to check him out. That's amazing. Now I do have one little special treat for you from our wonderful massage therapist, and maybe I can get it working. This is what I was playing with earlier. So I'm hoping I can get it to work, and we'll see. There's Mickey, that's her. But, oh, there we go.
I'm Mickey Williams, your massage therapist here at Rassel-Daigneault Holistic Health Center. Here to talk to you about how to have a healthy heart. through massage therapy. The heart needs no introduction. It's that vital organ that pumps blood throughout the body. And while massage therapists don't directly work on the heart because it's protected by all those ribs, we can improve overall heart health through cardiovascular optimization. And some of the ways we can do that is by reducing stress, lowering your blood pressure, lowering your resting heart rate so your heart doesn't have to work as hard. We can increase your endorphins, those happy hormones. We can improve your lymph and blood circulation overall. And we can improve the quality of your sleep. So if that sounds good to you, come on down to Rassel-Daigneault Holistic Health Center and book a massage because we would love to have you.
Isn't she cute? Okay. Yeah, so ultimately the goal here is to optimize one's health because we only have 3 options in life, really, in regards to our health. We've got option number 1, where we grow older, but yet we die early from maybe heart disease, which is number 2, right? Heart disease is number 2 cause of death in this country after cancer. And that's going to leave our family and friends wondering if we could have done something different. Shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? Those are terrible. Option number 2 is you're going to grow older and maybe into your 70s, 80s, but maybe you don't know the people that are caring for you. Your memory is gone. We have a huge incident of Alzheimer's and dementia in this country. You're no longer independent, so you have to rely on family or, some sort of care center to take care of you, a nursing home, assisted living, whatever it may be. Option number 3, perhaps you grow older and you made your health a priority, you took care of yourself. You get to travel with your family, check off your bucket list, making lots and lots of memories. You're independent, you can live on your own. Until one day you're well into your 90s, perhaps, you just go to sleep and you don't wake up, right? That sounds pretty good. Raise your hand if you want to be option number 3. Okay, I knew it. I wasn't even going to ask about 1 and 2. I knew it.
Like into 100.
Yeah, that's a great, thing. My grandmother died when she was 96, and she had all her faculties. She would repeat herself and get a little bit forgetful, but she knew who we were. She could have an intelligent conversation. She was independent until she wasn't. So you see, she fell at the cider mill. She was taken with family to a cider mill, and she fell. It turns out she fractured her back. And if you know anything about elderly people, when they break bones like backs and hips, recovery can be quite difficult. And her recovery was quite difficult. Pain control was difficult. Lots of things were difficult for her. And unfortunately, she succumbed to those injuries and other things that came up after that. But that's the kind of longevity I want. I really, truly believe my grandmother would be here today had she not fallen. I really, truly believe that in my heart. And that's what I want. I want that for myself. I want that, I don't want to be a burden on my kids. Ever. And so I try to encourage my patients to want that too, right? Especially the older ones that maybe started late in prioritizing their health, because it's important, right? My dad right now, he's having some issues with his health, and he feels like a burden. And it bothers him. He's always been a strong, independent man. But right now, he's feeling a bit like a burden. He's grateful that he has 3 kids to help him out and get things done. But I can tell, just in the way he presents and some of the things he says, that he feels a bit like a burden. And that breaks my heart. I certainly don't want him to feel that way, because I don't feel burdened by him. However, I can understand that because I don't want to ever feel like a burden. Okay? So I know you guys came later, and I'm sorry if you want to stay and I can go through some of these slides with you guys that you missed. But I really want to encourage you to you've got some awareness now, right? You've got some knowledge. Hopefully it wasn't overwhelming. That was my goal, to make it overwhelming. But inspiring at the same time that your body is designed to heal. You just are far too toxic and far too deficient, and you just need to get the raw materials in. Once you get the raw materials in, your body will do the work, because that's how you're designed, right? We know the body will heal itself. We cut our finger, and guess what? We're not going to cry about it. We put on a Band-Aid, and a few days later, it's closing up, and we're good, right? Yeah. So I want to encourage you, and because, it's really expensive to get natural health care out in the world, right? For instance, around the corner there's a doc who, it's like $1,500 just walking in the door, I'm told. Could be wrong, but that's what I'm told. Other docs, it's $500 out the pocket. I took my daughter to get some regenerative therapy on her knee. It was $300 right out the pocket. Nothing even done yet. I had to pay $300 up front. So what I'm saying to you is, yes, in natural healthcare can be an investment. It absolutely is an investment in your health. But because we do what we do, and we do it so effectively, that we don't have to have exuberant prices, right? We don't have to. And so, and we love to give our patients discounts. And so, because you guys are here tonight, are you two current patients in our office, chiropractic patients, or also?
Nutrition.
Okay, nice, very well. Because you're here tonight, I'm going to offer you a special, because we want to take care of our community. Okay, so our normal initial consult, which by the way is 2 visits. The first visit is clinical. So we go through a lot of clinical testing, including heart rate variability study, which is a study of the autonomic nervous system function. But what it really tells us is how overall physiologically healthy are you, okay? And then we also do what's called body composition analysis, which tells us body mass, right? Body fat percentage, water percentage, all the things, right? Muscle mass, bone mass. And then we use these as trending tools to be able to give our patients some data, some comparative data as they walk along this health journey with us. Then we do the clinical testing, and we send you home with a food log. Because why? Because everything we just talked about today about the standard American diet. Because we want our patients to learn gradiently, bit by bit, visit by visit, how to nourish their body better, okay? And then they come back on visit 2, and we discuss all of the clinical findings with them. Why? Because we want our patients to know. We want our patients to be well informed about what our programs are about, what the supplements can help their body do, and all of the things that they need to know to make an educated decision on how they want to handle their health, and if this is the thing for them. Okay? So if that sounds good to you, you can that normally is, by the way, $200. Okay? Not $1,500, $200. And greatly discounted tonight if you get on my schedule. So you two are not nutrition patients, so if you want to take advantage of that, that would be a good time to do that. Miss Heidi is here, and is Brandy still here? I feel like Brandy, I saw Brandy. To help us do that, okay? If you're watching at home, that goes out to you as well. Just call the office tomorrow, and that number, can that number be posted below? Or yes. Posted with the video?
Yep.
Okay. Either way, it's 517-336-8880 for this location. And you can get that special. Just let them know that you were watching tonight, and you want to take advantage of that. Okay, so thanks for coming. I hope I brought up your awareness of heart health and why it's important, and maybe you've set a goal and now take action towards that goal, right? I mean, you have the opportunity to walk out of here and absolutely do nothing, right? We all have choices. I mean, truth be told, right? I made choices years ago I read a book, and I was going to get better with my finances. It was Dave Ramsey's book. I learned how to snowball, and I started out pretty strong, and then I nope. Okay, so don't, the goal is to learn new things and to have new goals and then to take action. Okay? Fair enough? All right, well, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Until next time.